What is going on, guys? Welcome on back to Monday's Movers, presented to you by Second and Short. My name is Tyler Lauder, and he is Aaron Ben, and we are back to talk about the Week 4 of the NFL season, and we're going to tell you guys who we have moving up and who we have moving down. Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, recovering from an evening of some pretty good football games. I gotta say, I watched the early games. They were kind of boring at first, but then it seemed like suddenly in the fourth quarter, all of the games got super exciting. So it was kind of fun, and here we are.
Yeah, there was definitely no Ferraris out there. It was all locomotives where it took a while to get going, but once it did, it couldn't be stopped. And yeah, that's actually better. I would rather have really exciting second half football than like really exciting first half football and then just clock chewing for the whole second half.
Yeah, of course, for real. I'm with you there. Who are we talking about here? Who's moving up, Tyler?
Well, the first thing moving up, and this is maybe a surprise, maybe not, I don't know. We've been hyping up this team for years, and they're finally starting to deliver, and that is the Cleveland Browns. But more specifically, that is the Cleveland Browns offense, which has now hit 3 consecutive weeks with a W, 3 consecutive weeks with over 30 plus points, and they've done all this in 17 days.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to like diss their defense or anything, just because I just think their offense has been incredible. The turnaround that they've pulled since week 1, where they only scored 6 points against the Ravens defense, but to put up 30 plus points the next 3 weeks is great. And I mean, they're sitting now at 3-1, largely in part to that offense.
Yeah, and they actually were losing 14-7 at the end of the first quarter, and then that huge second quarter where they outscored Dallas 24-0 was the whole difference there in the game. Dallas at the end had a late comeback, garbage time stuff, which we've seen them do each week, but it really, it was too little, too late, and this Browns team they're starting to look nasty on offense. And it's not just they're looking nasty, we're like, oh, all these playmakers doing well. Nick Chubb went out early in that game.
Yeah, Nick Chubb went out, and it's like he wasn't even missed. I mean, Kareem Hunt still had 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had a couple like depth players, D'Ernest Johnson and then Dontrell Hilliard also contributed. And D'Ernest Johnson actually had almost 100 yards. He had over 7 yards per carry. So I mean, they were looking good everywhere on offense. Odell Beckham came in and had 3 total touchdowns. He had how many? He had 150 total yards rushing and receiving. I mean, it looked like everything was clicking for them on offense.
Yeah, everything was clicking. I mean, the fact that they were able to run like 4 deep at running back, the fact that they won a game where Baker Mayfield only threw 165 passing yards. We even saw Jarvis Landry, just a laser of a touchdown pass to Odell Beckham. I mean, I don't know it's so weird. If Jarvis Landry ever wanted to play quarterback for a team, like if a team had 3 guys get hurt and they're like, Landry's our starting quarterback, I'd feel confident with him as a starting quarterback with how accurate he is in his career.
Yeah, I mean, just run him like you run Lamar Jackson, and I bet he could do at least halfway decent.
Exactly. This Cleveland Browns team right now is just firing on all cylinders, and I'm not at the point where I'm going to sit here and be like they're going to win the division or anything, because they still have to get past the Baltimore Ravens. We still haven't seen them run into the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the biggest thing right here is that not only is their offense clicking on all cylinders, everything's kind of working. They didn't have any turnovers yesterday, and that is huge. They won the turnover differential by +3. Time of possession, they had the ball for about 7-8 minutes longer than the Dallas Cowboys. That's right there. That right there is how you win football games.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm not trying. Again, I don't want to diminish anything the defense did, because I mean, we see Myles Garrett get his 3rd straight game with a strip sack. It's just that their offense has been. It's blown me away these last few weeks with all the doubt and the hate that Baker Mayfield has gotten over the last couple of years, especially last year. I mean, it kind of looks like everything's coming together.
Yeah, and they're going to have a string of more difficult games coming up here as they host the Colts and then they travel to Pittsburgh. But These next few weeks are going to separate them from, potential hopefuls to actual contenders. But this team has been fun to watch so far, and they're definitely moving up. Now, let's switch it over. Let's keep it in the same division, but let's just talk about a player. There's one player in the AFC North that just dominated even more than Odell Beckham. Who is that player, Aaron?
That player is Joe Mixon. And you know how I know that is because my fantasy opponent had him on their team this week. He carried the ball 25 times. He had 151 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. And it wasn't just like, he also had 6 receptions for 30 yards and had another touchdown in the air. And it's not just the numbers. It was just like how he played against that Jacksonville defense. He just looked mean. Like he was pushing people over, shoving people around. I mean, it wasn't just the numbers. It was you had to watch him do it.
Yeah, here's the thing. The Jags they're a team that have been giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points this year and everything, but that's exactly when you want to see these guys step up and dominate, is against bad competition. Guys that are not supposed to be as good as them. If you can't deliver against the teams at the bottom of the NFL, how do we expect you to deliver against teams at the top? And that's what he did here. I mean, he just looked, every time he had the ball, there was opportunity to score. Every time he had the ball, he was striking fear in the opposing defense. Like, I assumed every time he touched it, they're going to get a first down right here. Or he's going to break one out, or he's going to break a tackle, or something. Like, he was that good every time he touched the ball.
And that's kind of exactly what you want when you have such a young quarterback with Joe Burrow. You want to give him like the surrounding talent to help him and take some of that pressure off. And that's exactly what Joe Mixon did this last game. And let's hope he can continue doing that.
Yeah, Burrow only had to throw 36 times, which I know is still kind of a lot, but compared to like 57 a couple weeks ago, I think this is a huge plus. If Joe Mixon can continue to get the bulk of carries, and this offensive line can play like this compared to what they've done in the past 3 weeks, then I think the Bengals are going forward and be more competitive. We can see that this build that they have going on is working now, and I just hate to see talented players get wasted because teams refuse to invest in offensive line. So I'm glad that it's all kind of working this week.
Yeah, I think he's a good player, and I think he's kind of been overshadowed by the fact that he plays on kind of a bad team.
All right, now this is great. We're transitioning for something that like relates to one another. Let's move from one big cat to another big cat, and let's talk about the Carolina Panthers, man. This is the team that everybody has been writing off, saying they are going to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft this next year. They're probably going to get Trevor Lawrence. This team is the defense is like the youngest defense in the NFL. They don't have any stars. Christian McCaffrey's hurt. Rookie head coach. Like, I can keep going. I literally can keep going. There's so many things.
Yeah, I know you can keep going because, this is your team, and you got to be pleasantly surprised about how they're doing.
100%. I was thrilled out there. I thought that they did really well against the Cards from start to finish. They held Kyler Murray in check. And yes, I know he got 3 touchdowns. His completion percentage is really good. But Carolina was not allowing anything downfield. They did not allow Murray to have any successful attempts downfield. They held Hopkins in check. And it was all just check down for him. 24 completions for 133 yards. So that right there is just kind of like the tail of the tape. Like, he was averaging 4.3 yards an attempt. That's terrible. And for the Carolina Panthers, it was great. Teddy Bridgewater looked fantastic. And that's where we should start first. Aaron, talk about Teddy and how well he played.
Well, Teddy Bridgewater is kind of surprised me. I originally had him as like our riser, just him by himself, because on the season, he's been pretty good. He's top 10 passing yards per game. Last night, threw for a decent 276 yards. 7.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, interception. He added, it was kind of a Cam Newton-esque touchdown run early in the game where he ran for like 18 yards, bowled a couple people over. So he looked like he's kind of running the offense like we thought he was, and brought in to do kind of what we thought he was brought in to do, and that's play well enough to get the Panthers through what is supposed to be kind of a rebuild era. And he's kind of played better than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he has been an outstanding signing. He has had a lot of question marks coming off the offseason on whether or not he's going to be able to hold down a full-time starting gig for longer than, a Drew Brees injury. And he's almost at that point, so we're going to see. I mean, he's hitting game 5 soon, so maybe this is his cap, but to be honest, he looked great out there, running the ball, throwing the ball. It was efficient. His interception was a slightly overthrown ball to Ian Thomas. Some things happened, but on top of that, the offensive line protected him. He didn't get sacked at all, and he just looked good out there. And then let's keep moving. We're gonna focus on guys a little bit longer since I'm such a big fan. But Christian McCaffrey's gone. They needed offense from somewhere else. Mike Davis is the guy that got the step up, but Reggie Bonifon also got carries. Combined, they had 26 attempts for 137 yards, which is fantastic. Together, they averaged over 5.3 yards a run. They had 1 touchdown together. Mike Davis also added 5 receptions for 27 yards, and Bonifon had 2 catches, 18, and a touchdown. The run game, it just kind of seems like, obviously it's not the same, but whoever's in Carolina for the longest time, ever since I've been a fan, is going to dominate the run game. Carolina's always had efficient runners. Yeah,
I mean, you go back, Jonathan Stewart, and then before him, D'Angelo Williams. Like, they've always, a lot of teams will have like this one trait that defines them across all eras. Like with the Steelers, it's defense. With the Packers, it's great quarterback play. With the Panthers, it's like they always have, they always have a very good running back.
Yeah, and those guys played really well. Mike Davis just was beasting some guys. Like, there was 4 or 5 times that people just tried wrapping him up, and he just kept running with his tree trunk legs. Not exactly Barkley legs, but tier 2 Barkley legs, and just powered through and muscled over these guys. Another credit we got to give to is Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson has come on strong. A lot of people say he's just a deep threat. He's not a number 1 wide receiver. You like to say he's incredibly too thin. Like, you have no idea how he's as small as he is and can still be an NFL wide receiver.
To be that thin and play in the NFL.
But it works. It just something. He's good, and he's playing well. 8 catches, 99 yards yesterday, and he's 6th in the NFL in receiving yards right now. He has truly been Teddy Bridgewater's go-to guy. And I think the fact that DJ Moore is taking all the number 1 looks from the opposing team's corners is allowing Anderson to get more open. And this connection is working really well.
And I got to say, in my opinion, what's made all of this possible has been the coaching. I mean, Matt Rule, I always have been of the opinion that good coaches find a way to get the best out of their players. And I'm reminded of what Brian Flores was able to do with the Dolphins last year, where people were expecting them to have a negative win total, but managed to get them 5 wins with seemingly not a very good roster. And that's kind of what Matt Rule is doing. He's getting the best out of his guys. Like Robbie Anderson, who thought he would be top 10 in the league in receptions. Mike Davis, who even is that? He's doing what I think a coach is supposed to do, and he's using his players to their full potential. And that's that's always kind of what we said Bill Belichick was doing. So he's definitely on the right path.
All right, let's move from the positives to the negatives, the lows. Let's just get negative on this, man. Let's talk about all of our movers down. And we're going to start first with what everybody else has been saying. Everybody's been bashing on the NFC East, calling it the NFC least for a couple years, and right now is almost no different. I mean, they have a combined between all 4 teams. They have 3 victories through 4 weeks. They have 12 losses and 1 tie. That is not a recipe for a good division. However, the Eagles, yes, you guys did get a win last night, so we're not going to be bashing on you. But let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their coaching and how, for some reason, they like to let other teams lead, and they're like, we'll just play really hard in the 4th quarter.
They pulled off a miracle a couple weeks ago against the Falcons. Let's not try and call it anything other than it is. Even though we saw them driving down late down 3 points against the Browns. I think we all kind of knew that they had already spent all of their luck against the Falcons, and they weren't going to pull it off again. Their offense is crazy insane. Defense is loaded with talent. The whole team is loaded with talent. In my opinion, and this is actually my choice for our down of the week, it all comes down to their coaching. Mike McCarthy was kind of hated towards the end of his regime in Green Bay. Like, they were saying, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. How do you only get one Super Bowl? And these things that happen, like when you have so much talent on one roster, but you can't get the wins and you lose stupid games like this, all comes down to coaching, in my opinion.
It's so weird because we were hyping up the Cowboys as a potential playoff contender, and I still think they are. I still think that they are the best team in this division. I mean, they're 42 points better than the next team on points forced through 4 games. They've scored almost 80 more points than the Giants. It's just this defense. Their defensive backs are playing very poor right now. I don't know why they haven't went out and signed another safety. Earl Thomas is still sitting there. I get he's old, but they need to fix something now. Maybe trades. They've got to get a better cornerback, defensive back, safety, like anything, combo. Because teams are throwing on them like crazy. Teams are doing whatever they want. And you're not going to be able to win games when you're constantly giving up like 35 plus points. It's not possible to keep winning these games. Yesterday after the game, Mike McCarthy said he doesn't like the identity of the 1-3 Cowboys. Yeah, no shit. Nobody likes the identity of 1-3. But he just said we're a come from behind team as I stand in front of you. And that's not the way you win consistently. That will not be our approach, that's for sure. This is the 7th time the Cowboys have started 1-3 or worse in the Jerry Jones era. They've only made the playoffs one time, and that was back in '96.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys fans are so clamoring for Jason Garrett to be fired like the last few years, and finally happens, and they somehow have downgraded at that position. It really makes me wonder if Dak Prescott is gonna not just jump ship and sign with a different team.
Yeah, and the franchise tag can get really expensive as it just keeps jumping every year. And already at $31 million right now. I mean, here's the thing. If I was a quarterback, I'd be okay getting on the franchise tag because it's a guarantee. It's right in your pocket. It's guaranteed. And you take it. But I understand when the long-term contract, and I agree. I could totally see him jumping ship if he's not happy with how this team is performing. If this defense can't hold, I mean, the fact that Dak is right now leading the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah.
And he's not doing it by like a little bit. Like he's like 370 yards ahead of the next guy. If he is constantly delivering for you and your defense cannot hold, like it's not Dak's fault. And I have not been a Dak fan in the past. I haven't been one of those guys that support him. I've always ranked other quarterbacks ahead of him. You know what? Dak can run an offense. Dak can play. He's got tons of options there. And the offense is no problem. It's the defense. And the defense has to get fixed. And that starts with the play calling. And the fact that McCarthy is too stubborn to address something, he actually said that we have a defense that fits our players and we have to make sure we are getting those guys in position. No, you should have already been getting them in position. Like, how do you have a defense that works for your team yet doesn't work for your team? That doesn't make any sense. He's talking out his ass. Dallas Cowboys, you're down. Let's move on to Daniel Jones, who, Danny Dimes, oh, man, I love this guy, but he's just not performing this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of us kind of felt silly after shitting on the Giants for taking him so early last year, and then he played pretty decently his first year. Some people saying that's partly thanks to Pat Shurmur. But this year, it's not it, man. He threw for 2 touchdowns in week 1, 2 interceptions. Since then, he's not thrown a touchdown. He's thrown an interception in every game so far. Got 5 on the year. In terms of yards per game, he's hovering around just over 200. Yards per attempt, he's at 6. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have options. He's got Evan Ingram was a good receiving tight end. It's got Darius Slayton, Golden Tate. It's got a decent receiving core. Sterling Shepard before he went down. It's just looking like he's kind of not putting it together. Like he looks to me when I watch him, he looks kind of scared to like make the throw or like scared to throw into kind of a tighter window, and he's just not getting things done.
Yeah, when you're sitting at on the season 61% completion percentage, you're not in the worst territory, but it's clearly not favorable. And this team is not being able to score, but we can't really, it's hard to blame all on him. He's been sacked 14 times this year. You know, he doesn't have Barkley. Sterling Shepard's been out for a couple of games. This offensive line is not what they need it to be. They're not scoring a lot of points. I mean, I think on the year so far, like I said, they've scored like 47 points or something like that. And that's just, you can't do that. You can't be averaging like 11, that'd be 12, about 12. You can't be averaging like 11.8 points per game and expect to win any games. Now, I will say this, the best thing going for them with Barkley being out is being bad, because you're going to automatically get Barkley back next year. You're going to get a top 5 draft pick. You don't need a quarterback. Don't do it. But like it's just one of those things like where if you have so many players that are just out for the year, just chalk it up as a loss, come back next year.
Well, again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to combat that, Daniel Jones needs to be better to keep his job, because I think the Giants are crazy enough that they actually might take Trevor Lawrence if they had the number 1 pick and then trade away Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teams would be facing that dilemma, and I think that they would take him. I think they saw what the Cardinals did with Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray, and to be honest, I think the Giants would take Trevor Lawrence if they ended up with the first overall pick.
So here's what we're saying, Daniel Jones. If you want to be a starting quarterback for the Giants next year, you need to beat the football team and the Eagles. Like, just win 2 or 3 games and you're good. Now, if you don't want to be a quarterback there, then just keep losing out and maybe you'll be starting somewhere better.
Yeah, just listen to us, Daniel Jones. Why don't you ever listen to us?
Danny Dimes, come on, man. All right, let's talk about the final thing here and get out of here. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals and how they are moving down. You know, after starting off hot, 2-0, they come back and lose 2 games that they are favored in against the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers. We've already talked high on Carolina, so if you're still listening, then you kind of know why we're down on the Cardinals. But if not, and you skip directly to this part for some reason, Aaron, why are we down on the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, I mean, we just hyped them up week 1 for beating the Niners. But, I mean, Cardinals have lost 2 in a row, like you said, to kind of teams that were viewed as they should have beat them. It just looks like, to me, they improved a lot over the offseason. I think they're a lot better team than they were last year. It just seems like they're still missing a few pieces. And they're still missing, I think they need to shore up offensive line. The defense has improved a lot. We talked about that as well. But still, just like not everything is in sync, it looks like to me.
Yeah, it's just the passing wasn't really great. The fact that Kyler Murray is leading the team in rushing yards is disappointing. Kenyon Drake has not been what he was, sold to everybody the final 6-7 weeks of the season last year. And right now, while we're sitting here, we can agree that DeAndre Hopkins has been balling out. They still need help outside of that. Couldn't connect with Larry Fitzgerald on a deep pass early in the first quarter. Christian Kirk is almost like yeah, he scored yesterday, but he's almost not. He doesn't seem like he's involved enough in the offense. It's weird. They have all these good options to throw to, and it just doesn't seem like they're getting enough opportunities to throw to them. It's weird. It's almost like he's throwing to Hopkins 15 times a game and then like 3 times to everybody else.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not trying to shit on them too hard. I think this is something that'll be fixed with time, because I think Kingsbury has them on an upward trend in general. It's just that they've been kind of lackluster these past 2 games, but I think that's something that they'll be able to fix in the long run.
Well, hopefully they get it all back on track next week, because they are in the middle of a 3-game road trip where they go to Carolina, go to the Jets, go to the Cowboys. I think the Jets are the best team to get back on track on, because even the Denver Broncos, sorry everybody that I know in this area.
Hi, Cody.
Even the Denver Broncos could beat the Jets. So really, you should be fine. That is going to do it for us here on our Monday's Movers episode presented by Second and Short Podcast. Thank you guys for listening to us. Make sure to click that subscribe button down below to stay up to date on everything that is Second and Short. If you guys would like to listen to audio-only podcasts, we have those going down for you. Look in the description. We have Spotify, Google Podcasts, every other place in the world that puts on audio podcasts.
In the world.
Be sure to leave a like to let us know how much you like this video. It is the cheapest way to support our podcast, and it helps us continue to do what we love to do, and that's talk about football for people that love to listen to us talk about football, which I don't really know if there is anybody, but you know, you guys click it, whatever.
Yeah, check us out on social media as well. We're on Facebook, where we update every episode that comes out. And Twitter, we kind of try to get polls up every once in a while, interact with people, get your guys' opinion. And then on Instagram, we will have like discussion points, update our story, news updates, things like that. And feel free to hit us up with a DM.
All right, thanks guys. Y'all have a great night.